we're here with Silke Kaiser, and she posted a video that has over 6,000 shares now on Facebook, and she's been attending to South African farm attacks. And her book is called Gotcha. And she has a few bits of advice that went viral for a reason on Facebook on how South African farmers can avoid attacks, can prevent attacks that are normally pre-planned. Now, first question for you, which I heard you mention in your video, that you say that all the farm attacks that you have seen, that you have witnessed, were pre-planned. Can you give us a little bit of information additional to that?
Yes, I can indeed, Vincent. So yes, firstly, all farm attacks in South Africa are inside jobs. By that, I mean that an employee would be involved in that farm attack by giving information to the people who commit the atrocities. And I use the word atrocities correctly because these people, the farmers, are being either shot dead or they are killed with a panga. So overseas, that would be called a machete. And so we call the people that organize the farm attacks, the employees, those are known as the contact people. They will give the information to the hit squad. The hit squad themselves are cowards. The information has to be absolutely correct in order for them to go into that house. They need to know that their safety and security is basically guaranteed. So they would need to know about alarm systems, vicious dogs. They would need to know if the farmer has a gun, if he's prepared to use the gun, where the gun is kept. They also know about guns, money, and jewelry. Those are the main objective of all farm attacks. What I do is I conduct polygraph tests, and that has put me onto the front line of crime in South Africa, and especially farm attacks. I've attended to about 300, maybe even more now, I would say about 330 farm attacks since I've written my book.
You have found that there was an employee involved in almost 100% of these farm attacks. Is that true?
Not almost 100%. In every single time, it's an inside job. So it is hardly ever that all the employees will be involved. And another thing that I want to mention about farm attacks, in their planning, the rape, torture, and murder is pre-planned. However, in South Africa, and I speak about this in my book, the belief in witchcraft runs its thread throughout crime in South Africa. A large portion of South Africans believe unfailingly in witchcraft because that is their upbringing, it is their culture. As I was brought up with God, so I have an unfailing belief in that. Please God, I'm never proved wrong. However, so in that witchcraft, there's a lot of superstition around that witchcraft. So let's say the hit squad go into the farmhouse and now they're committing the attack. And let's say, for example, rape is on the cards because that has been planned between the contact people, i.e. the employees, and the hit squad, the people that come in to commit the atrocities. If one person changes their mind about the rape for whatever reason, maybe the woman has said something that changes their mind or something happens that makes them suspicious. If one person in the hit squad change their mind, they will all change their mind. So another thing that I have found is that the contact people, the employees, will say, yes, let's rape them, let's murder them. When I go there, and if the attack has happened, and I show them photographs, they fall apart because the fantasy is not the same as reality. There's something else I'd like to add, is that I hardly ever go to farms when attack has happened. I was on a farm today where the farmer was killed in December, an inside job, and my polygraph showed who the guilty person was. And it's very difficult to look into the faces of those people, knowing that they've orchestrated a murder, and I have to remain professional. However, all the information will be handed over to the police. So I work with a gentleman called Lucas Swart, and I do discuss this in my book. Lucas Swart has been working on farm attacks for many years. He gets the information through informants. In South Africa, we call them impimpies. So the informants will give him the information that an attack is planned on this farm. Or sometimes the farmer gets wind because the staff are acting in a way, as I said in my video, befriending the dogs, or somebody's closing the curtains very early, and that is a warning to the farmer. And then Lucas will go there, he'll get the information, and then I will go there and polygraph to confirm that there is indeed an attack planned and to confirm who the players are. And then action is taken. We cannot call the police when it's planned only because no crime has been committed, which is a little bit frustrating. But I'm not a police officer. I have no authority to arrest anybody. And on a polygraph in South Africa, you cannot arrest somebody.
Okay, so just to touch on that witchcraft thing a little bit more. So you're saying when one attacker or an employee of the farm or whatever the case may be changes their mind about the attack or the rape or the murder or whatever the case may be, the robbery, that all of them will change their mind because they believe in witchcraft or they believe that it might be cursed or they might be cursed for life. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
I'm not an expert on witchcraft, but I can tell you this. So they visit what we call in South Africa a sangoma. That would be the witch doctor. If you watch South African news, you would often hear this mentioned, the Marikana mine as well. That tragedy there, they consulted with a witch doctor who gave them muti. So muti is the spell. And he said to them, you will be invincible, you will not be shot. And there's also a spell that makes them invisible. Because that muti absolutely failed, that sangoma was murdered. He was murdered. So when they will visit the sangoma, most criminals in South Africa will visit a sangoma before they commit the atrocities. So there's a lot of superstition. There's a lot of faith in those sangomas. Whether witchcraft works or not, I cannot say. I have my opinion, but I don't want to say anything. But let me just say this. When I've been on farms, I see witchcraft there. It's pigs' hooves, it's rabbit tails, it's monkey skulls, it's herbs, it's oils. And often I have been bewitched because they get very angry with me that I've come in and I'm exposing their plan. So I have been bewitched. But Vincent, I'm flourishing. I'm standing strong. I don't have any bad luck. And there's nothing that I do. I don't go visit another sangoma to break the first sangoma spell.
Another thing you said in your video is that you've noticed that many employees who were involved in an inside job in a farm attack, that they were befriending the farmers' dogs, that they would invite them up on their chest to smell them, to look straight in their eyes, because they were getting ready to be involved in a farm attack and they wanted the dog to get used to them so it would be easy to attack the farm. Now, before we get into the points that you made on how to prevent this and how to stay safe, just let me know how many times that has happened or that you have known that to happen in the 330 farm attacks that you have attended to.
Okay, so that's a bit of a difficult question because I don't ask the farmers every time, has somebody been befriending your dogs, but many times. Let me say about 70% of the time, I think I would be accurate if I said that. So the employee, it would normally be a male employee, does this to befriend the dog so that he can control the dog at the time of the attack, or that he maybe has a smell of the attacker because the employee themselves will not commit the attack. It is the hit squad. And another thing, foreign journalists coming to South Africa and they say the workers are killed. Nonsense. That is patently untrue. It is an absolutely incorrect statement. The employees are not killed. Sometimes the foremen are killed. And this is because, again, we have a culture of hierarchy in South African farms, and the farmers might not have dealt with that properly in employing that foreman. They might have put their son in charge. In one case that I went to, it was a female foreman. They were not happy, and they really, really tried to kill her. So also another thing that I want to mention, in my video, I spoke about the lady who works in the house, which would be the domestic worker, maybe you would call it the maid, would maybe close the curtains at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This would be because that domestic worker, that lady, she's not involved in the attack, but she knows about it because the hit squad watch. From the minute that the farm attack is planned, there is a watcher. I've turned this guy the watcher in the woods. And sometimes the hit squad will sit in the garden for nights on end. The dog's barking. Farmer takes no notice. And when the attack happens, because the dogs are barking outside, nobody's taking any notice. So that maid will close the curtains early in the afternoon. She's giving that farmer a warning to say, you're being watched. But she cannot say it to the farmer, because to be an informant, if she informs that farmer, she will be killed because she's told.
You mentioned to keep the dogs inside because
100%. Yes, so
Okay.
Vincent, I'm going to interrupt you, sorry.
No,
because
go ahead,
I've got
go
so
ahead.
much to say about this. So yes, so let me just give an example. I recently went to a farm attack last year, and there was a tame lion. So when I arrived, the lion was in the garden. The farmer says, "Get out, the lion's tame." No ways am I getting out when there's a tame lion in the garden. I don't care how tame he is. And what they had done, they had a little sausage dog, and that sausage dog slept inside. And this was their only stumbling block, because that little sausage dog was awake and he would bark at anything and everything. And the farmer would get up, put on lights, be awake, show that he's awake. They fed that sausage dog to the lion. So indeed, dogs must be kept inside. Even in our urban areas, I tell people, keep your dogs inside. Thousands of dogs have been poisoned in South Africa in their gardens to get the dogs out of the way. That is one of the ways to keep themselves safe. Another thing that farmers should never, ever, ever, ever do, and even in urban areas, and I do speak about this in my book, don't go outside. If your dogs are going crazy, we have armed response here. So rather get help. And the farmers as well, tell them, even if the guy that you trust the most knocks on your window and says, "There's a problem," you don't go outside. It's a farm attack. If they set your store alight, it's a farm attack. If they start killing your cows and those cows are screaming in agony, it's a farm attack. Don't go out. All farmers have something called Farm Watch. They're all on a radio. The farmers will band together and rush out there. Obviously, this takes time because of the length of they have to travel some distance. Obviously, Australia has now been saying that the white farmers, they're going to make a plan to fast-track visas that white farmers can come over. Julius Malema, people are taking notice of Julius Malema and his anti-white rhetoric, but for how long? Until it gets old. Because I think when news gets old in the media, they're not interested anymore. And I also think the same in South Africa. It's just old news. A dog gets hurt on the side of the road and social media goes mad. A farmer gets killed, maybe for one day, social media goes mad and it all falls away. But if they don't make a plan to stop these farm attacks, because there's very, very few arrests, and they could make those arrests, the police, if they reintroduce task teams, because we don't have task teams anymore, if they had to reintroduce those task teams with proper technology, etc., they would be able to make those arrests within hours. Because on some of the farm attacks, they have managed to do that, where the police have done their job efficiently. They have blown me away with the knowledge and how they've done it. I won't tell you, obviously, how they found everything out, but they have certain methodologies that really, really work. And they've arrested within hours, and those cases have stuck. There's been no bail, and the dockets have not become lost. In most farm attacks, if there is an arrest, dockets get lost, and that is because the police are getting paid off. And I'm saying that on the radio. Police are getting paid off to lose dockets.
Last question for you. How many farm attacks have you prevented in your polygraph system and saved people? How many lives do you think that you have saved, and how did you go about doing that exactly? Tell us maybe a story or two on some of these farm attacks that you have prevented through this system.
Okay, so let's talk about that panga dog. All the credit has to go to Lucas. He gets the information. He also offers courses to farmers. There's a lot of information about farm attacks which I cannot put out into the social media. What I've given today is a snippet, and that's all I can give. Because if I put everything out there, the farmers' lives will be at risk. So he gets the information, and he also gives the farmers courses. And some of the things I've said about closing the curtains, the dogs, not going outside, all of that are signs that a farm attack is imminent. The farmer will phone Lucas. Lucas will do a full investigation. And all that I do is I go and polygraph. And then I get that report, and that's why I know so much. And then I polygraph the people to see who's involved and who's not. So they will all know about it, because on the farms, the blacks there, that culture, very, very cohesive. They will all know about it, but they will not all be involved. Literally what they will say is, I'm sitting this one out. So I never just test for knowledge. I test. Are you going to get something for yourself if this farm attack is successful? Are you giving information to those perpetrators who want to commit a farm attack in this place? Those are the questions that I sort of ask. So I would say that Lucas himself, because I don't always go in polygraph, I would say Lucas must be up to 1,000 farmers that he saved the lives of. And with me polygraphing, because once I've polygraphed, it definitely shows that their plan is exposed and they will pull back. Only once did they not pull back. And I got myself arrested on there as well. So yes, I myself have been arrested. I'm laughing about it now, but at the time I needed a lawyer. And so those farm attacks have never, ever, ever gone ahead once I've been there. Not once.
Thank you for coming on, and thank you for taking the time, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you very much, Vincent. And I'm looking forward to those controversial shows. I can do controversial and hectic at any time.
Fascism comes to America, it will come under the guise of anti-fascism. Please go ahead and hit the like button on this video. It boosts the algorithm so that more people can actually see this video. Also subscribe and hit the bell button, and visit us on Patreon. Everything helps, even if it's just $1 a month. And once again, subscribe to our backup channel. The link is in the description.